Alright guys, and welcome back to the Don's channel. I am the Donfather, and this is hashtag AFL Car Chat. Today's topic is a little bit different from what I have been doing, which is good. Variety is the spice of life and all that. Somebody sent me a link to a video on YouTube, a big Mike Wacko Jacko Jackson in an interview with Mike Sheehan. I'm going to put the link to the actual video in the description section below if you've not seen the interview. You simply must watch the interview. It is half an hour long. It's a long enough interview, but if you've got half an hour to spare, you must watch it. For me personally, this is the most intense, most aggressive interview I've ever seen of any person, any sports star, any celebrity in my life. Basically, Wacko, Big Jacko, he starts with, I think he actually even starts the interview Mike Sheehan by saying, we're here with Mike Jackson, and he says, it's Jacko to you, mate. He gives him a couple of wee one-liners, and Mike Sheehan's kind of laughing them off, thinking, well, he's just having a bit of fun. Whew. No, he wasn't having a bit of fun. He spent half an hour of explaining how much he disliked him. And he reminded him throughout the interview, did I mention how much I dislike you? And he says, yeah, I think we've gathered that now. The long and the short of it is, obviously he's an ex-player now. The governing body of Aussie rules is now AFL. It's kind of a franchise, isn't it, the AFL? It stems from the old Aussie rules football, which is the era you would have seen Mike Jacko Jackson playing in. Where the money wouldn't have been as big, it wouldn't have been a professional sport, they wouldn't have been taking great wages, they'd have been taking a humble wage, they'd have been taking a decent wage from the sport, but they were never taking anything enough to consider themselves being rich from the sport. And he has nothing but disdain for the AFL, and indeed, as you'll see, Mike Sheehan. He actually got asked, did you have a hit list in his locker of people in the media who he wanted to attack? And he says, yeah, I did, yeah. He says, was there anything in it of me? He says, why are you even asking me this question? You know that I had something about you. You know that there was something wrote about you. What was it? And he says, it says you wished I got cancer. He says, yeah, I did wish. And then he went on to say, yeah, I wish you got cancer in the finger so you couldn't write your gutter trash about me, basically. So it got me thinking that kind of is the long and the short of the video, the way it goes, the sheer animosity and anger. When you think this guy, he's questioned about 4 clubs that he's got kind of kicked out of in his time in the VFL, AFL, and it never lasted too long. None of his playing career at any club lasted too long, which is surprising considering he was one of the best kickers in the game. It's the way he goes about it. He says, you train as you play. So if there was somebody that was better than him or good in his position, he took them out of there. And that's a teammate included in training. And clubs didn't like that kind of mentality. They weren't slow in getting rid of him. There was loads of different things like setting fire to people, start putting lit cigarettes out in their pockets. Just crazy, crazy stuff that was enough to see clubs saying, do you know what? Get gone, mate. We can't have this. You're taking this too far. But there was no denying, nobody was denying in the interview that he was actually an exceptional football player. He did kick an awful lot of goals. His goal rate per game was better than some of the stars of today's game, and up there with the best in the years gone by in the 80s. Greats of the game back then as well. He does talk about respect of certain players. He has no respect for other players. The modern game, he calls them pretty much show ponies and fraudsters. Basically saying that they're not football players anymore. They're athletes. They lack the basic skills, the fundamental skills and rules of Aussie rules football that they played back in the game when it was a pure sport before the franchise took over and diluted the skills and increased the athleticism, increased the speed of the game, if you like, and lessened tightened up the rules and lessened the contact in a way. So he kind of has disdain towards that. The interview is very, very, very intense, and in some parts you actually start to feel sorry for the interviewer. But it gets me thinking, how can a man, even this many years after retiring, still hold so much animosity and anger and maybe hatred? I'm not putting words into his mouth. It comes across that he holds hatred towards the interviewer. Well, in the UK we had a legend of what you would call soccer, Paul Gascoigne. There's no denying he was one of the most gifted English players of all time. Naturally gifted, he just had it in abundance. But with his gift, he also had demons. He was an alcoholic, along with loads of other mental health disorders. And how was he treated by the British media, the sports world? At the times they used him for their own personal gain, for making money, for stories. Yes, great storyteller, great player for being able to write and make up stories about, because he had a great personality, like Mike Jackson. Great personality on the oval. As he says, I had personality. These robots now don't have personality. They just do everything they're told to do, exactly how they're meant to do it. Nobody's entertaining the crowd anymore. Well, that was Paul Gascoigne. But because he had this gift, he also had this demon of alcoholism, mental health disorders, and the sport cashed in on it. They never helped him. They never directed him in the right way to try and help his illnesses. Instead, the media and the sport exploited Gascoigne. In some cases, they tapped his phone. He couldn't go anywhere. There was everything in his private life was dragged through the media, and they literally ruined the man. And it was an absolutely shameful and disgusting thing. The red top rags in the UK, i.e. the tabloid papers, I'm sure you have them in Australia, also done things like Hillsborough. The shame of Hillsborough with the Sun, an absolute disgrace. They should never be forgiven. In actual fact, the Sun newspaper should be abolished. So, as I say, it got me thinking, what has Mike Sheehan wrote in the... And Jacko refused to say. He says, "You know what I wrote. I'm not going. You know what you wrote about me. I'm not going to sit here and drag it up. You know what you've wrote." So, how much is these media guys, these so-called credible media people within the AFL, the modern franchise of the sport, how much have they gained from names like Jacko? How much money have they made off the back of this man? And how much has he made in the sport? Yes, he would have made money. He's probably squandered it. He's probably been suspended and lost lots of money because of... When you've got somebody who's got a talent, they've usually got a problem. Look at Einstein's a genius. He was crazy. Genius and insanity kind of go hand in hand, don't they? When you've got somebody that's naturally gifted, as I'm sure Jacko was. I'm not saying he was the best in the sport, but he was clearly a gifted player. He obviously had a little touch of insanity to him as well. It still does. Instead of trying to run these guys through the dirt, should we not be trying to help them? They're colourful personalities. They bring light to our sport. Instead, we have media people. As I say, I'd imagine Mike Sheehan might have been jumped on the media bandwagon, wrote gutter press about him, tried to ruin him, kick a man when he was down. You do not hold this much hatred in life for this long unless there's some sort of substance behind what you're arguing. So that's what got me thinking. There's got to be substance in what he's saying for him to hold this anger even to this day. And he claimed that other ex-players, legends of the sport, still hold the same dislike towards the media and indeed the AFL, the modern day franchise of the sport. He says the sport should have been protected and been made Australian rules football. They should have been the governing body and kind of sold the rights to other people. It should have been kept in its purest form and not been interested in going down the route of advertisement and all the rest of it and all the modern day things you see with sport. I kind of agree with it to an extent, but if you want a game to flourish in the big open world, it does need to have media outlets, and it does need to have sponsorships, it does need to have merchandise deals, it does need to have all of these things to grow a sport. But you still need to keep it pure at the same time. Australian rules football in its purest has got to be a sport like no other. It's fantastic played the right way. I love it. But I can see both sides of the argument. So kind of went away from this watching the interview, felt sorry for the interviewer, but also I don't know too much about the story, so it makes me think there has to be a level of substance in his argument for him to hold so much anger and also to claim other ex-players of years gone by feel the same way. They've been left behind. He says, I made this sport so much money and I've ended up with nothing. And he claimed, well, you know, you did make money. You wasted it. Mike Sheehan kind of puts it to him. He's like, no, well, not really. I made them so much money. Even with my suspensions, I make this sport so much money because he was a personality. He went on to bring out a single, I think, which made number 3 in the charts, which is absolutely a ridiculous single. Even he says it himself. But he doesn't care. I don't care. I'm making money. I'm a mercenary of this sport. I don't care. I think he tried his hand at acting out in Hollywood. I don't know how well he did there. But he also he got asked to go out to America or Canada, I think he says, North America anyway, to try and promote AFL. And he did do it. Why didn't they ask anyone else? It's because of the personality he has. It's because of the type of human being he is. He could sell the sport and they knew that. So they did make money off the back of him. And that's why I can kind of see these parasites in the media have used him and abused him. So that's a little bit of how I felt about the interview. I had to talk about it. I've never seen an interview like it in my life. It was absolutely intense and sometimes borderline mental. But there is a but. You have to think there's two sides to the story. Why is he speaking like this? Why is he so angry? Even to this day, why? These are the questions you need to ask. Look back and might do some research into what was potentially wrote about and what was said about him for him to feel this way. He obviously was a personality and he obviously has brought money to this sport, and he's not a wealthy man, and he still works with youngsters across Australia where he claims in the countryside, rural parts where they're playing the sport are being left to rot. They've got absolutely no chance to make it into this modern game because skills don't get you there anymore. You need to be an athlete. You need to, you need to be physically so fit to get into this sport, which is a great thing to see, but maybe, just maybe, you're losing out on some of the most gifted football players potentially from the country because they're being considered too weak, too unfit, too small, I don't know, to make it in the modern game, which is quite sad really if you think of it. And that's what he's trying to say in his argument. I'm still working at grassroots. Grassroots is everything in any sport. You need the best coaches. You need to pump your money into the grassroots for the game to flourish in future generations. No matter the sport, you need to pump considerable cash into creating opportunities, training facilities, paying coaches, good coaches to coach the youngsters, to keep the love of the sport going. And this is what he's getting at. So very, very interesting interview. I'll never forget it as long as I live. I've never seen anything like it. Do check it out if you haven't seen it. If you have, you'll know what I'm talking about. It struck a chord with me. I kind of grew up in an era where sport was like this till what we're seeing in modern day sport. It can strike a chord with any sport, really, can't it? And really, really, I'm glad I've watched it. Thanks very much for the suggestion. I won't forget it. If anybody's got anything else they'd like to see me reacting to, please feel free to drop a comment in the section below, as that was absolutely insane and really, really great watch. Thanks again anyway. I am the Donfather and this is #AFL Car Chat. See you later, guys.